Hello, and welcome to the Learning to Be Human podcast. This podcast is all about understanding and learning to heal from our shame and trauma. In this podcast, we get curious about feeling what is happening inside of our bodies. I'm your host, Christopher Linkenbach, and I'm going to start you off with a little quotation today. Today's quotation actually comes from Dr. Jordan Peterson, as in response to the title of the podcast episode, Taking Full Responsibility for Your Life. His quote is, "To stand up straight with your shoulders back is to accept the terrible responsibility of life with eyes wide open. It means deciding to voluntarily transform the chaos of potential into the realities of habitual order." So this quote really hits deep inside of me right now, just kind of in relation to what I'm going through in my life at the moment. I have recently just kind of begun to notice how I've slipped up a little bit in my discipline and in my overall, I would consider it my sense of masculinity, my masculine energy. When I say masculinity, I don't necessarily mean man or woman. I mean the masculine energy inside of me that is responsible for discipline, for setting boundaries. And I noticed that I've been embracing my feminine a bit more lately. I've actually been going to yoga a lot more. And although I do go to hot yoga, which is a more masculine practice, it definitely, I have noticed just like a slip of responsibility. And so this morning I woke up, I was in a pretty turmoiled state. There were a lot of emotions that were going through me, through my stomach, and kind of just ripping me open. Yesterday I just had a really hard day with, there was a nasty headache running through me. And this morning I woke up and immediately I knew I needed to take care of a lot of my life. And there's like this wall in front of me of a bunch of things that I need to get done. And I tend to listen to what Tony Robbins says in these moments and to just take massive action and then pray and see what happens. And this morning I woke up, I meditated, did my morning routine, and then I decided to go for a jog today. I went on a bit longer jog than I typically go on, and that really helped to kind of get some of the energy flowing this morning. The whole time I was listening to Jordan Peterson, a bunch of the motivational YouTube videos that are online, and something that he discussed that really hit me was that in order to have a playful state, we must have order in our lives. He describes it as, in order for the children to play in the garden must be walled. And I love that analysis because it makes me remember that if I want to feel good in my day today, if I want to be able to access those playful states, which aren't it is my natural state of being. It's something that's difficult for me to access. I just have a serious persona about me I think I've developed through defense mechanisms. But in order for me to let those defense mechanisms start to subside and drop away and to re-enter into this playful state again, I've recognized that in order to do so, I also have to have areas of my life taken care of. If I don't feel safe financially, if I don't feel safe even just going back to my own room and not having it cleaned, then I don't feel safe to go out and be social with people. I don't feel safe to even go out and play sometimes with my girlfriend. There's like this underlying sense of insecurity that runs inside of me. Now, in taking full responsibility for our lives, one of the things that Jordan Peterson really talked about in just a lot is kind of just hammering home, start with the smallest conceivable thing that you can think of. Did you make your bed today? Okay. Can you expand from there? Is your room cleaned? Right? I even had a thought this morning too of like, how can I go out and intend to transform and help people's lives if my room isn't in order, if my room isn't even cleaned up? How can I go out and tend to other people's psyches? And so that to me today was a symbol of take some time each and every day to organize your room. Make sure your bed is clean. Make sure that your closet is organized. My closet right now is still just full of a bunch of stuff that I need to organize. And I'm wondering what aspect of my psyche is that resembling in the external world? Why is my closet so dirty? And what about that dirty closet does it resemble in my psyche that has not been cleaned yet? And so I think of these areas for taking responsibility. And one of the things that really hits me when I think about this concept is, in terms of taking responsibility, is why not? Why not dare to take responsibility? What is the alternative? Failure? Something else that Jordan Peterson really hit home for me today is that we're afraid of even looking at what it is that we want. When is the last time that you've truly asked yourself, what do I want from life? What do I want to pursue? What do I want out of life? It's not an easy question, because in doing so, we define our parameters for success. And when we define our parameters for success, that means that we also have parameters for failure. And so if we have parameters for success, we can also define what do we need to do? What are the daily habitual actions that we can take in moving towards that success? And if we fall out of that, that is the lack of responsibility. That is the failure. So all of a sudden, when we define what it is that we want, we also know the responsibility that is required in order to achieve or to become that of which we want, right? And I think that there's something beautiful about asking for what you want, because in doing so, you acknowledge that you don't have it now, but you have to transform the inner psyche in order to create yourself into such a person that would be able to accept or to have that goal or that dream or that vision that you have created for yourself. And so in taking radical responsibility for our lives, we ultimately get to take on the challenge of creating something truly beautiful, a masterpiece with our own lives. And also to say, especially for the men who perhaps are listening out there, we must take on the responsibility for our own life if we want to have a family. If we are unable to provide for ourselves, then how can we provide for a family somewhere? So in taking on responsibility, we take on responsibility of others as well, but start with yourself, then move out. Taking responsibility is one of the most noble and most difficult things that we can do. But as Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about, we must take on as much responsibility as humanly possible. Life is not necessarily about becoming happy. It's about finding meaning. And happiness comes from that. But that meaning comes from a sense of responsibility, a sense of discipline in one's life. And without that, we do not have a sense of meaning. And life becomes meaningless. And that's where the existential can come from. And so when we don't feel that we're moving towards something greater than ourselves, we don't feel that we're bowing before God in some way, then we do feel meaningless. We do feel that our lives do not have meaning to them because we're not serving something greater than ourselves. And in order to start working with the depression of the existentialism of having a meaningless life, we do have to submit and surrender to something greater than ourselves in order to say, listen, there's something bigger here that is bigger than myself that I'm worth suffering for. Because no matter what path we choose, whether we choose to stay the same or whether we choose to grow, there's going to be suffering. Yet, if we choose the growing pains, I mean, what alternative is there? Not growing, staying the same, which you're ultimately going to be changing anyways. And that's the whole premise of being stuck in your comfort zone as well, right? And so with that, thank you so much for tuning in. There's a new show every Saturday at 9 a.m. And if you are looking to work on your mental health game in any way, to step into your full sense of discipline, to create a vision or dream for your life, or to really just begin to create the space to ask yourself, what is it that I'm looking for? You can book your next retreat at comfortzoneretreats.com. The link is down in the description below. On these retreats, we go out in nature. We disconnect from our phones. We connect with each other. And really, it's an opportunity to reconnect to who you are. So with that, if you will also review this show, that would mean so much to me. Please give an honest opinion about what you think about it to help better the show, because ultimately I do create it for you. So with that, I will catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace.